this is my kind of people. This is my kind of riding. This is just something more exciting. And I could discover different places that I never could discover before. When I came back, he had an offer letter for me. He had an offer for Austin Moto Adventures. I mean, there's all kinds of training schools out there. There's all kinds of things, but we really want to set this up as a world-class, truly world-class premier experience. And there aren't many places like that. There aren't many places up there that give that kind of experience. And
so just because you've been riding for 20 or plus years or 10 years or whatever it is, and you've done all these expeditions, there's always going to be something that you can learn in the basics, or even just get reminded that something that you learned a long time ago, that it clicks and you're like, man, I've been doing this wrong for so many years. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 4 of the Backcountry ADV Moto podcast. And once again, I got a special guest on. You've probably seen him in some of my videos and definitely on Instagram. We've done a lot of things together in the past. He's kind of known for being the motorcycle guru and the Backcountry Store owner, I guess you'd like to say, for the Idaho BDR. Funny story with that. We'll get into that in a little bit. But Josh Jones, a really good friend of mine. He's ex-military, ex-government contractor, again, Backcountry Store owner, motorcycle instructor, kind of a jack of all trades. So let's welcome on Josh Jones, man. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, bud, how's it going?
Not too shabby.
Yeah,
you've got a lot going on these days.
Dude, it's just never ending. It's like, what's the flavor of the month this time?
That's right. It's like every time I talk to you, it's like something new. I mean, all exciting stuff, good stuff. It's never like a bunch of drama or anything. But yeah, man, you've got a lot of things going on, a lot of good stuff coming down the pike for sure. But you're in Austin, Texas now, right?
Yeah. I think last time we talked, I was supposed to be moving up to Spokane.
I know, it's funny. Josh came to my house and spent a few days, helped me with some stuff here at the store, doing some remodel, and we were set up to have him come up here and move to Spokane area, and he was gonna do some work for Harley. And not even like a week and a half later, he's like, hey, I'm moving to Austin, Texas. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, like your like previous hometown too.
Yeah, right.
Like,
just north of where I used to live, for sure.
yeah, we're always like bouncing around each other too, because I mean,
I know.
we met when you were full-time RV, and
Yeah.
then I went full-time RV because of you. and then you came off being full-time RV and then moving to Idaho, and I bounced around for a few years full-time RV and then ended up in Idaho anyways.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just we've known each other for several years now and have never lived close to each other, but we see each other quite a bit, and at the very least in passing. So yeah, let's kind of talk about that. So how we met. Like you had mentioned already, back in, was it like 2016, my wife and I were full-time RVing, traveling around the country, and just carrying our adventure bikes with us and everything. And I decided to take a course, like a training, like most people should, if you're going to kind of get serious about adventure riding, and started doing a Google search, and Rawhide popped up, and lo and behold, it wasn't actually very far from where we were at the time. So took the course. My wife took it with us. It was great class. She enjoyed it. Learned a whole lot. Broke some bad habits that I had, but I met you as one of my instructors there, and like I said, had a great time. Learned a lot from you, and saw you take that GS and kind of blow my mind with it, because I was on an Africa Twin at the time. I had just gotten it.
That's
and
right.
Did not know that the GS was as capable as it was. And that was kind of cool about that course, is that it showed, normal guys about how capable that the GS it actually is. But fast forward a few months, you're living in Las Vegas, kind of commuting back and forth to the training course, and we just happened to be passing through, and we went on a ride together outside of training, and kind of hit it off, man. It was like a blind date.
Yeah. All right. We became best friends.
Yeah. Like instantly.
Right. It's like, oh, and yeah, coming out of there, out of Vegas, I remember it was like the very first time we like both hit off road right away. And I ended up getting stuck. You had a video of that. and be getting
Yeah,
stuff like
I'll see if
right
I
at the
can
top of
find
things.
that and post that somewhere in here, but yeah, man, that was funny.
Yeah, we were like, I think we were on our way to the Pioneer Saloon or something.
Yeah,
And we were just like, oh, let's
yeah.
take this random way, and then all of a sudden it's just like silt, just right down.
Silt, and at the time, it seemed like the longest sand wash I've ever been in.
Yeah,
Like, just that long sand wash in between, where we were at that time and the Alpine Saloon, or not Alpine, what was it called again? The
the
saloon?
Pioneer Saloon.
Pioneer Saloon, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But, yeah, I mean, like, prior to that,
that
I mean, you've
that
done
was
a lot
like
of
your
things.
first. That was like your first kind of big outing into into adventure, like around all around that time frame, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I living in Oregon, I had done all the original Oregon BDRs, and there's just a huge difference in Northwest riding versus
Mhm,
desert riding and sand and rocks and all that good stuff, you know. So
mhm,
when we traveled, it was I got to kind of taste everything when it came to adventure riding, and it really kind of opened up my eyes to like, okay, this is something that I could really get kind of addicted to because the Northwest has some great places to offer, but really the US in general has amazing places, and you got to see all that when we traveled. So, I mean, I rode everywhere from Florida to New York to, Washington down to
mhm.
Southern California. I mean, like all four corners of the country and everything in between. So,
Yeah,
traveling full time with an adventure bike was ideal. I didn't put a whole lot of miles on the bike because I would,
right,
trailer it
trailing
to where we were
it.
going, but I got to do a
Yeah.
lot of cool day rides and a couple of overnights. I mean, shoot, I even did uh Fairbanks to Prudhoe Bay at that time, Dead Horse,
Yep.
when we were in Alaska, and got to do some riding in Canada too, which was really fun. But anyway,
I think didn't your wife have she had an 800 F800?
no, man, at the time she had that BMW G650, that scrambler.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
So it was a similar motor to what the old like Dakar 650 had,
Hmm.
the
Yep.
Rotax motor, but it
Yep.
was in this like awkward. It was such a fun bike though. Like that little scrambler. It looked awkward riding it because you kind of felt like you were just right on top of the front wheel. But
Hmm.
like I don't know, dude. It just the thing just ripped because it didn't weigh anything. I think it weighed like 300 pounds
Right.
or less.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
nuts.
With a
Gas tank under the
650
seat.
motor in it.
Yeah, gas tank was under the seat. I mean, it was a cool little bike. But she did rawhide on that, and she rode quite a bit too when we were traveling. But
Mhm.
um, you know, just wasn't her thing for the most part. She wanted to go out and do cemetery tours and stuff like that in Louisiana and that kind of stuff, cooking
Right.
classes. So,
Right.
but let's talk
Yeah.
about some of just, as much as you want to talk about kind of your past, what you've done. I know you were in the Coast Guard, so we can kind of start there. You did how many years in the
Mhm.
Coast Guard?
Yeah. Did about 3 years in the Coast Guard. Went to the Coast Guard Academy.
Yeah.
Down there in New London, Connecticut, and got to be on the the Eagle, Cutter Eagle, the Escanaba. Did some training out of air station. One of the air stations. I wanted to get into helicopters was my biggest thing. I'd gotten into out of high school, gotten into um, Naval Academy. I got an appointment to Naval Academy and West Point and Coast Guard, and my heart was actually set on going to West Point, and I wanted to fly Apaches. It's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, like,
Who doesn't, right?
you're right. And then I ended up doing a summer seminar over at West Point and got to talking to some of the people in the flight program, and then a lot of them actually were kind of deterring me from going. They were just like, if you really want to fly helicopters, you should really look at Coast Guard. And as a career, as a Coast Guard pilot, I mean, you just have so many more options because you get so much more flying time. When you go
Yeah.
out and train in the Coast Guard, that was the other thing about the service that I really liked. It's like when you're training, you're actually doing your job. It's like
Right.
you're not training. You're not training for war. You're training for law enforcement. You're training in aids to navigation. You're training in ice operations or search and rescue, whatever. And you're actually actively doing it while training. So that was really attractive to that whole thing. And then the helicopter thing, they're just like, yeah, yeah, I mean, it's cool. We fly like every other week or something and blow stuff up. But, at the end of it, it's like, you know, with the Coast Guard pilots, because you go out all the time in all weather conditions and stuff, like you got first placement in anything afterwards, commercially, whether it's, medevac, air ambulance, or commercial flight and everything like that. But law enforcement, police, there's always a need.
Yeah,
News
lots of
couples,
like
whatever.
real on the job training.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what steered me that direction. And then I ended up not staying in long enough to be able to go to go do flight school and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I had an opportunity to. I was either going to reenlist down in Florida and go to a port security unit, or I had an opportunity to go defense contractor and working in counter narcotics, working with different contracts in that world. And I was like, hey, I could do a lot of the same stuff and get paid a whole
Yeah.
hell of a lot more money. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
You're like E3 or so military pay versus government contractor. You're like, I
right.
think I'll take the government contractor.
Getting 150 grand a year tax free, or yeah, it's
Right. Right.
so yeah, I decided to go um, government contracting, and that was awesome. I mean, I got to work all through Central South America. Worked with DEA, worked with Secret Service, worked in I was in Afghanistan, 2009, 2010 time frame, and just yeah, really really cool stuff. Really,
Very cool.
just really neat things. And it was technology, security. Um, and we were setting up essentially mesh networks before mesh and cloud and all that stuff was a thing.
Oh, wow.
It
Yeah.
was over a whole country, and doing joint operations with all those different entities out there is just
Very,
pretty
very
cool
cool.
stuff. Yeah.
So what spurred you to get into motorcycles then? How did that, where was the chain reaction there?
Well, I've ridden motorcycles for a long time, and actually, I started off on cruisers. My family, especially my aunt, she was kind of the biggest catalyst. She passed away a few years ago, but she was the biggest catalyst. She was just this badass biker chick,
That's awesome.
and we'd always go see her at the rallies, like Rolling Thunder rallies and stuff. And when I got old enough to actually ride myself, and got my own bike, she bought me my first Gremlin Bell. You know, and
Yeah.
I still carry it to this day. I still keep it in my vest and stuff like that. But yeah, I was in the cruiser world, and I patched in to an MC and everything. We were a subsidiary under the Booze Fighters, and did that whole thing, that whole lifestyle for a bit, and it just I don't know, I got kind of tired of that type of riding. Um, Bar hopping and just with the whole pack, and
Yeah.
wear your rock leathers with your rockers, and hey brother, that kind
Yeah.
of that whole deal. And I've had a lot of amazing friends and people I'm still friends with to this day, but I don't know, I was looking for something different. And then I ended up, and my father rode too, and I actually learned to ride on his. He had a 1942 Norton. um,
Wow. Very
yeah,
cool.
and yeah, and it's whole long story with that. But we lived overseas growing up, and so we lived in India. And when I was old enough to wield a bike, I was able to ride that, and he showed me how to ride that 1942 Norton.
Nice.
So that
Nice.
kind of like spurred the interest too, with
Yeah,
riding.
you come from a family that's kind of been all over the world, right? Like your dad has had business and has worked in. I'm not gonna jump into all what your family has done, but both your mom and your dad have had a extensive background in just world travel and working for the entities they work for. So you've
Hmm.
kind of been thrown in just to being probably more worldly than what most Americans have, which is probably some of the best experiences I would imagine that you've
Hmm.
had. You and I were having a conversation not that long ago about I'm going to Costa Rica in like a 30 days or so. And you're like, oh yeah, I spent, what would you say, like months in Costa Rica.
No, I lived 3 years in Costa Rica.
3 years. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
my
oh, well, that's awesome.
my youngest sister was born in Costa Rica, actually. So yeah,
Crazy.
so it's funny because we talk about, like, where she was born in Costa Rica. My other sister was born in Argentina, and I'm like, I was born in Columbia, Maryland. not Columbia
Yeah.
country. So, so I'm like the only one that didn't get an exotic place to be born out of.
The boring place to be born, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, so you're getting kind of tired of this whole Harley slash cruiser life, and
Yeah.
what kind of gave you the bug to jump into off-road bikes?
So my dad and I would always try to do, we'd rent bikes or something, like if we were in Hawaii or something, was like, oh, let's get a couple Harleys and ride around or something. And we always talked about doing these trips, like father son trips and everything. And we actually ended up seeing long way around, long way down, like the whole
Like
typical
everybody has,
story,
yeah.
like everybody
Right.
has, right?
I mean, that's
And
my story, so
yeah, like I saw that and I was like, that's kind of freaking cool. Like, this
yeah.
whole BMW adventure thing. And so we talked about it. I was just like, hey, like let's try to look into this trip and everything. And we were all excited, like, what do you do? It was like, I don't know how to ride these things, off road. And we actually so we did it backwards. We ended up both actually buying BMWs. I was in a Victory Cross Country. I had a Yamaha V Star, and I had my first adventure bike when I started getting into the thing was a KTM 640.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
had that bike too.
yeah,
I had
yeah,
it
and that
for
was
about a month because
yeah,
after the first trip, I was like, "Screw this thing."
yeah, yeah. It sucked.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
just yeah,
it's a cool bike, but if anybody who's ever ridden that more than 60 miles an hour for more than 60 minutes, you know that you can't feel your feet or your hands when it's all said and done.
it's just a paint shaker. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
I mean, I was just like, man, this is what and that was my intro to dirt bikes. That was my first dirt bike, and I'm like,
yeah.
God, this is horrible. Like, coming from riding, cruisers and the Victory and the Harley and all that stuff, and it's just like, I mean, yeah, those things shake, but not like that.
Right. And the 640, it truly is. I mean, it's basically a 450 frame. I mean, people are probably going to freak out when I say this. I mean, essentially, it's a 450 frame with
Mhm.
a 640 cc motor and an 8-gallon gas tank. It's like,
Yeah,
let's just hodgepodge this thing together and and turn it into what you want to call it, adventure bike. It was kind of the little brother, I guess, of what like the 990 or 950, right?
because I think
Adventure.
there was a 625. I thought there was something. I can't remember what the other one was. It looked funny. It looked like Dakar, but
Like
it
an
had like
alien.
weird,
Yeah.
yeah, alien googly eyes. I'm gonna drive me nuts. Which one that was, but maybe it was a 640, but LC8 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I don't
have a
know.
picture of mine somewhere. I'll show the guys here while we're
Yeah,
talking about it.
yeah.
It's
I
a
think
it's a
I've got mine too.
Was yours orange or silver?
It was orange. It had a black tank, the oversized like Safari Land black tank, and
Oversized. Jeez, mine came with an 8-gallon tank. Like that's from the factory. So
yeah,
how oversized is like bigger than that? Holy moly. I didn't
yeah,
know that was even a thing.
yeah,
Crazy.
and yeah, that didn't live very long,
No,
and then
I bought that bike between having a V-Strom and my AT. It was just like
mhm,
I went from a V-Strom because I thought that was an adventure bike, and it was, I guess. I took it places that it should never have been, and I wanted
mhm,
something more off-road worthy, so I got the 640 and literally did one trip on it in the summertime and was like, nope, this is not what
yeah,
I'm looking for.
yeah,
But sorry, I kind of
yeah.
cut you off.
No, no, no. And then that I was like, because I knew I wanted to get into this thing. I was like, well, I don't know if I want to go full on BMW. So it's like, yeah, looked at the KTM, and then went through the whole rabbit hole that everybody else does. Like, oh, should I buy a KLR 650?
Why not?
It's like,
Yeah,
because yeah, that's the Alaska bike. That's the bike that, yeah, it's the cockroach. That'll never die.
right, right.
um, and then I'm glad I didn't fall into that trap. So
Yeah.
I hate to piss off all you KLR diehards, but
It's a great
um,
bike, man. I mean, it's just a acquired taste, I guess. It depends
mhm,
on what you want to do with it and how much you want to spend because you can get a bike that can go around the world for 6,500 bucks brand new.
mhm,
I mean, maybe not now, probably more than that now, but you could find a
yeah,
KLR, was it like a Gen 2 or Gen 3 for three
yeah.
grand all day on
Just
Craigslist right
just
now.
the Gen 2 is the different plastics, right?
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, But yeah, it's and then I kind of kicking myself because there was this, it was a KTM 990, the Dakar one, the one that's like kind of purplish and orange,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it was like 12 grand or like 11.9 or something like that. And I I should have bought it. I should have bought it. And especially knowing now, like, how valuable those things are. And
Yeah,
it
for
didn't have a
sure.
lot of miles, at that time. It was like, yeah, man, I should get that. And then um, ended up passing on it, or I lost out on the bid. It was like an eBay bid or something. And
Oh, gotcha.
I lost out on it and it was like, okay, cool. I didn't need to spend that. But anyways, so, uh, but then, yeah, I was just like, you know what? Like, let me just go full stupid. We'll just jump in and just get the BMW and ride that thing. And so I ended up getting one, and my dad got one, and and we found the this training school, Rawhide, right out there. And I was like, hey, like, and I was living in California at the time, and I was just like, hey, there's this place not too far up the road that's here that like teaches how to ride this thing. Like, let's sign up and do a father son thing, and then do a ride out to Mojave and stuff like that afterwards. And so I want to say about a month before going, I decided to take my GS off road because I'm like, this thing does everything, right?
Yeah.
It'll ride itself. And I wadded myself up on this trail, and got into these switchbacks and just completely lost it, fell over, and I'm like, oh crap, I scratched my brand new bike.
Right, right.
And then I'm trying to figure out how to get the thing up, and it's an incline like this, and it was a switchback that I just lost traction and went over and almost went off the edge. And then, like, I had no idea how to pick up the thing, how to turn it around and everything. It took me like probably 35-40 minutes to get the
Oh,
thing
wow.
up. And then, like, I finally got it up, and then I'm trying to get it up to a flat spot instead of turning it around, or like just the things we know how to do now.
Right. Yeah.
um,
Pivoted
and
on the
I just
cylinder head.
Yeah, exactly. And just I muscled it up this thing, and just like, okay, I'm way at over my head on this deal and stuff. And I managed to
Yeah.
get out of there, but it was like an hour just to get turned around and off the side of this hill. And I was exhausted. and
Right.
so anyways, we show up we show up to Rawhide to do our class and everything. And I rode. I'm just like, yeah, we're gonna ride that. And he shows up in a rental car, and he decided he wasn't gonna
With
bring
the bike
his
there.
brand new
Right.
bike. Yeah, he rented one, and I had mine. So I was like, screw it, I'm getting the first badges of honor on mine, anyways, and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyways,
Very
and
cool.
that kind of set off, the whole. I was just like, man, I love this type of, like, this is my kind of people. This is my kind of writing. This is the, just something more exciting, and I could discover different places that I never could discover before. That
Absolutely. I
kind of
mean, the culture, I mean, it's similar as far as like you want to call it brotherhood to cruiser riding and whatnot. It's just, I mean, there, like I said, there's some similarities, but I think at the end of the day, the best part about it is that it doesn't matter what you ride or what it looks like, the bike looks like. If you pass somebody on a trail, you're going to give the nod, you're going to give, a hand if anybody needs help or anything.
Right.
I can't even imagine how many people that we've seen on the trail and, hey, you guys okay? Do you need anything? And,
Mhm.
most of the time the answer is no, but sometimes it's, hey, I haven't seen my buddy in 20 minutes. If you pass
Right.
him, let him know I'm here. Just little stuff like that. I mean, the culture is great and everybody's always willing to help each other out. So,
Yeah.
and you're not just kind of stuck to the pavement all the time. You can literally go anywhere and
Yeah.
find new things and find new places and get away from people if that's your thing. And yeah, it's just a great experience in my opinion. That there's nothing else touches it as far as motorcycle riding goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it incorporates so many aspects of, I mean, backpacking, backpacking and hiking, and the adventuring side, and how you pack, and and everything. And
Yeah.
you're being self-sufficient to live off of your bike, and you got to bring the supplies and the tools and just extra spares, or just being prepared. It's
Yep.
essentially your motorcycle is your bug out kit. you know.
Yeah,
And
it's preparedness, it's like resilience, it's everything that people are, can lose nowadays into one package. It is kind of a way to step back, and obviously it's not a horse or a buggy or anything like that, but back when people traveled across the country and using those type of things, they had to be self-sufficient. And when you're on a motorcycle, granted, it doesn't take long to get out of the woods and find somewhere like fuel or food or whatever. But I mean, you can literally, if you want to, you can go from coast to coast or Canada to Mexico. Maybe you can cross pavement, but if you wanted to, you could do it without ever having to, maybe do anything but get gas. We did that years ago. Dan and I went from Canada to Mexico, and really we just crossed pavement. We took a couple of pavement runs just to get to restock fuel and food, and get parts when we needed it. But that was really it. We would jump back on the trail, and we did almost 3,000 miles of dirt.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's just a whole lot more of a dynamic experience, and
yeah,
putting you into situations and kind of getting that, I don't know, sort of that excitement, you had, and you do develop that sort of camaraderie too with the folks you ride with. I mean,
yeah.
things we've experienced, the extremes and the stories and everything that we have. It's just kind of like, it's just more of a bonding thing, and our inside jokes and all that kind of stuff.
The two adventure rides, the two BDR rides that we've been on together, both have kind of been shit shows.
Yeah, they have. It's like, yeah, it's an experience every time. It's like, okay, what kind of crazy thing is going to happen to us on this one?
So let's steer into that while we're talking about it then. So Josh and I, the first real ride that we do, multi-day ride we do together, besides some of the day rides we had done. This was during 2020. We, nothing was open except in Idaho, and me being from Idaho, I was like, well, you guys come up here and let's ride the Idaho BDR. There'll be no problems with, any drama around, going from one end of the state to the other. No one's going to say anything to you, even though in some other states there was all kinds of issues, right? You couldn't even
lockdown, right?
Yeah, you couldn't even go to the gas station without getting yelled at.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, they all come up. I can't remember how many people we had in our group. What was it? 2, 3, 4, 6 people, I think. Seven.
Seven of us, yeah.
And we to ride the Idaho BDR, and day one, maybe 40 minutes into it.
Yeah,
Nico's bike is 990, what we just got done talking about. His 990, the fuel, he had ridden it from Seattle all the way down to Jarbidge the day before, like straight through, no problems whatsoever, hauled ass, and made it in like an amazing time frame. Gets there, bunks up. Next morning we roll out and like just get out of the canyon at Jarbidge where it flattens out to where there's nothing out there.
Pasture, no shade. Yeah.
Nothing. And his fuel pump goes out. So we tinker with that for like an hour, trying to diagnose it, trying to see if maybe it wasn't, hoping that it wasn't the fuel pump, because we know that if it's a fuel pump, it's a common issue with those, and they're hard to get. Yeah. You have to usually special order them. So
we pulled long story short,
oh dude, we pulled like the tank apart. Anyway, we were hoping it was like a clogged fuel filter or something we could bypass, but so we ended up you and Nico two-upped it. We towed his bike and stored it in a farmer or rancher's barn.
And I was so happy that I got to tow a KTM with my BMW.
With your BMW.
And then force him to ride on the back.
With no seat, right? Because you didn't even have the seat on there. He had to sit on top of your
just had the plate. He had to sit on top of the plate. And
yeah. So we store that stuff, and end up having the rest of the group kept going on the route, and me, you, and Nico went to, was it Twin Falls?
Idaho Twin Falls. I think it was the KTM dealership there in Twin Falls.
Twin Falls or Idaho Falls? One of the falls.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
I'll leave it right here, because let's be honest, the dealer owner was phenomenal. He stayed open late.
Oh yeah.
He did sell Nico a brand new 2018.
Well, hang on. Before that, it was it was okay. They're trying to track down a fuel pump and everything. It's like, okay, the nearest fuel pump, that they can get for a 990, it's going to be like 2 weeks. And Nico's like, oh, my freaking, thing's ruined. And there is
Well, okay,
there
so
there was the Africa twins that were
oh
they
yeah,
were really
he's
trying
like,
to
I'm not
sell.
buying that.
Yeah, he's not buying Africa. And then there's a 1290 sitting right there. And we go, I think I said to him, I said, you ain't got a man in your family if you don't buy that sucker right now.
Yeah. So Nico is full-time Air Force, and he only has a certain amount of leave, right? So he had taken leave to do this ride, and he's thinking like, I just wasted all this leave for a 1-day pavement ride down to Jarbidge, Nevada, and now I'm gonna be stuck. And we're like, no, dude. Again, you don't have a hair on your ass unless you buy
Right.
that. And it's Saturday. It's almost closing time. No banks are open. So
Yep.
being the financially responsible person that Nico is, he put a 1290 on a credit card.
He loaded up 2 credit cards
Credit
with
cards.
half payment on one, half payment on the other.
Yeah. And dude, you take off, and me and him are waiting around. The
Yeah,
owner,
well, so the owner gave us his truck so we can go back and get
the
his.
truck, the shop truck.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
we go back,
So
we
we
pick
picked up
up
his
his truck,
990.
or I mean his bike, and we bring it back, and we get
They're still
everything.
doing the financing
He
on
ends
it.
up, yeah, he ends up buying giant loop gear and all this stuff because
Mhm.
he had hard panniers on his 990 that obviously weren't going to work, and they didn't have any other luggage. So he like bought the
It was
horseshoe
the
bag
horseshoe bag
yeah,
on
from
the
Giant Loop,
990.
and
Yeah.
loaded it up as good as he could. And we take off out of there. I'm running the GoPro, and I mean, he doesn't have 100 yards on this bike yet, and he comes bombing by me full wheelie. And he's like, "This thing
You
is
can pull fourth, fifth
awesome!"
gear wheelies on that sucker.
Well, with 160 plus horsepower,
Yeah.
And dude, he rode the shit out of that bike. I mean, brand new bike, no
Oh,
protection. The
yeah.
rest of
No
the
skid plate.
BDR,
The little pie pan,
nothing.
of a skid plate.
I
Yeah.
know. Went up burnt knob. The dude never even stood up on the bike. Sitting down on
Right.
that bike, rode all the way up
That's
burnt.
right. He sat the whole time. He was just like ripping it like a dirt bike.
Yeah, I know. And we're just like, dude, you don't want to stand up on the thing. He's like, no, it's comfortable. I'm gonna sit down and ride this thing. And dude, it was just so funny to see how Nico's a phenomenal rider. He can ride really well. But
Yeah.
then for him to jump on a brand new 1290 that probably weighed 100 pounds more than his 990 did, and
Mhm.
just ride it like he did was an experience to watch for sure. So we ended up completing the Idaho BDR with it. He ends up uh, going back down, picking up that bike after they fixed it for him, and he ended up selling the 990. But he actually has that 1290 currently, and he actually has it for sale. And it's got like 5,200 miles on it because he rode the
Because he
BDR
just
and
rode the BDR and that was it.
a couple other little short rides, and he wants to get something different now. And he's actually deployed right now, but he's like, if you know anybody who wants a 2018 1290 with like very low miles, let me know. So if you're out there and you're listening to this,
Hey, I'm gonna
yeah,
have to hit up my buddy Matt,
yeah,
because yeah, my buddy Z1K Wonder Matt, and yeah, because we egg him on because he got to ride a 1290 one time. We were doing some riding outside of Reno, and he was trying out different bikes, and he's coming off a Tiger, and he gets on this 1290, and he is like a giddy schoolgirl in comms. Wow! And he's like, oh, this is fourth gear, fifth gear wheelie, and he's just ripping wheelies, like just stands right up, right up. And we're like, dude, that is your bike.
That's funny. Yeah, it's
Um,
not the new version with the low tank on it, but still, I mean, it'd be a killer deal. I feel like if you're looking for a little bit older 2018 1290. But so that was BDR number one that we did together.
yep.
Fast forward a couple of
Well,
years.
well, do we want to continue on the costs of that
Oh,
BDR?
yes, that's right. Almost forgot like that. The best part about that BDR that was
Yeah.
a fun thing. But yeah, so we get to Yellow Pine, and if you're familiar with the Idaho BDR, Yellow Pine's a typical gas stop. We go to get fuel, and everything's shut down, and we're like, "What the heck? There's a store here. There's fuel." And then this guy comes walking up, and, "Oh, can I help you?" Like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to get some fuel." And we're kind of small talking around as this thing is going down, and somehow it comes up that the place was for sale. And
Yeah.
again, Josh, you should
The
buy this
store was
place.
well, the store was for sale. The building next door was for sale, and I think the bar down the road was for sale. And we're just like, oh man, hey, I'll buy this one. You buy Nico, you buy that one, and Kyle, you buy that one. We can own this whole town.
Like that'd be pretty sweet. We'll just make it like a backcountry town. We'll just turn it. I mean, it is a backcountry town, but we'll turn it into like a ADV Moto Mecca.
Yeah.
And Josh followed through, and
I
no
was
one
the
else
only
did.
idiot who bought it. It's like, well, I thought we were serious, guys.
Yeah. So Josh is the current owner of the Yellow Pine store in Yellow Pine. And you've owned that for what, 2 years now?
3 years. Yeah.
3 years. Yeah.
This will be the 4th year now.
Wow, man, time flies.
Yeah. It's no, it's been. I mean, it's been great. I mean, the place had been closed down for years, and for even us to get gas at the time, they had to go call the guy who was the owner of the building at the time, and he came down in his side by side or whatever, and filled us up with some gas and kind of partially opened up. But they had it shut down for a few years, and yeah, and I just ended up doing a bunch of research, and this was like obviously like post COVID and all that stuff, and I
Yeah.
was trying to had kind of like lost a lot of my work and things that I was doing during that time, and I was like, I need something else, to do another project. And then
Well, it was a big
this,
change too, because you were living in Vegas at the time, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So that's a big change to go
yeah,
from the
well,
hustle
Vegas
and
and
bustle
Reno,
of
sorry, Reno. We were living
oh
in,
yeah.
yeah, because we had gone from California on, and we still had the trailer, and gone up to Reno, and then Fallon, Fernley area, and
Yeah.
then yeah, from there up to Idaho. And yeah, that was got the place up and running. A lot of logistical issues because it is backcountry. I mean, back in the day, they used to fly everything in. We still have the aviation company that brings in their supplies, but they truck stuff in. But it's a good hour and a half, 2 hours to the nearest town on a good day.
Yeah.
Cascade, and is where we
So
get a lot of our
so
supply from.
just to catch the listeners and viewers up. So Josh is currently living in Austin, Texas, but does still also currently own the store in Yellow Pine. So
Yep.
it's obviously seasonal for the most part, right? I mean, in the wintertime, you could be open, but it's almost a waste to do so because the only way in and out is through either
Yeah.
snowmobile or airplane, right?
Right. Yeah. There is a road. There's a Four Season maintained road that we plow. The locals, essentially plow, and it can take that two normal hour and a half, 2 hours. In the wintertime, it could take about 6 hours to
Yeah.
get there. You got to chain up, and it's it's just a treacherous little tiny mountain road, and follows beautiful rivers and everything like that. But I mean, it is a remote backcountry little. It used to be, I guess, a town set up from mining, from the mine back there. So,
Yeah.
anyways, they're supposed to be reactivating the mine, and of course all the people moving out there to Cascade, McCall, and just the area's blowing up, and a lot more people are being pushed back and back into the backcountry there. So I had an opportunity to get the store back open, get it supplied and stocked, and maintain fuel and food, and then it just, I mean, I was shocked how many people actually came. I don't know if it was a result of getting that place back open, or if it was just kind of already on the rise. But
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be like 30, 40, 50 people a day sometimes, just BDR people. Like, guys
Right.
show up in packs, 10, 15 of them at a time on dirt bikes, adventure bikes. But then the side by sides and the quads, there's quad groups, that do it. There's Honda Trail 90
Oh
clubs and
yeah.
everything
Yeah.
that do all that stuff. And the side by sides, like I'd have days where there's 30 side by sides down the road, and just pumping gas, and they're,
Well, yeah, and that's the thing too. With like the quickest way to McCall, it's a minimum of like what 60 miles or so
mhm,
in the
yeah,
summertime, and then
mhm,
any the closest town in either direction you go is, I think the closest would be McCall at 60 miles, and then how far is
yeah.
Cascade?
Yeah, it's about 60 to 68 or 70 miles. So it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
so I mean,
just a bit.
if you don't have a lot of range fuel wise, like you need to get there and get fuel, or you're not going to leave. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because I have a lot of folks come through and they're like, "Oh my God!" It's like at the time I got it opened up, it was $7 a gallon, and then I had to bump it to 9 a gallon.
Yeah.
Um, and then like that's insane. I'm just like, well, if you go about 2 hours that way, it's $6 a gallon. Or if you go about 4 hours this way over Elk Summit, which is the
Right.
path, it's $12 a gallon over there. So you know,
Yeah.
it's
And
pick
it's
your choice.
expensive because it's not like you're getting it trucked in easily, like, like a Maverick or a Chevron or whatever. Like they literally have to come out and fill it, and it's the cost of getting it delivered is so expensive because it's so far off the
Yeah,
beaten path, right?
yeah.
Or you can go
We
and
have to
get it.
to get a big truck to come deliver. We have to get essentially the community as a whole to order fuel, so they get to justify the amount of fuel to send a big truck. Otherwise, I'm loading up 55-gallon drums in the back of my truck. Four of them, I can legally do about four, without getting a hazmat shipping thing. And then anytime I come in and out, I top them up, fill them up in town, truck them
Yeah.
back in, unload them into my tanks, and yeah, like that's
Yeah.
it's a lot of logistics.
It's yeah. So I mean, be grateful, I guess, if you're on the BDR and you need fuel and you get it for $12 a gallon, because it's better than trying to tow your bike out somewhere. So
Right, right.
but
Which
and then
which we've had
also
to do a lot of recovery. I mean,
yeah,
part of the search and rescue back there, and we've had to, gotten called on, getting people who've hurt themselves, broken themselves, their bike, or gone off the edge, um, any number of things, and side by sides too, of course.
right. And then the store also you have 3 hotel rooms, right? Or 2?
Two, yeah, two
2
hotel
hotel.
rooms and a couple other cabins that some of the locals let me like Airbnb.
Yeah, but there at the store, you've got the 2 hotel rooms. If somebody needs a shower, they could pay for a shower, and then you also have
Mhm.
all kind of like the essentials that you need at the store. So, I mean, you carry like Mountain House meals, and canned goods, and snacks, you know,
Mhm. Beer,
alcohol, whatever. Yeah, whatever,
alcohol.
whatever you
I got
need.
I got it set up as so I got the state liquor contract. So it's a state liquor store
Yeah,
as well, so we can have all that. And yeah, just some of the basics, that people need as they come through, and snacks and chips, and you know the usual gas station grocery store kind of stuff.
very cool.
And then yeah.
So we skipped over a little bit as far as you being an instructor at Rawhide, but just so everybody knows, Josh for a few years has been a BMW, is a certified BMW instructor. Is that right, or
So
what's
yeah, it was I was at Rawhide for about 7 years. Um, and yeah, we were the BMW Off Road Academy for the
right?
West Coast. So there's the Train Performance Center on the East Coast in South Carolina, and then Rawhide was the BMW Academy out there in California. Yep.
So I'm
And
guessing that you learned a lot there, becoming an instructor, as well as not only doing the classes, but you also did a lot of the Rawhide tours, right? So the Baja
mhm.
tours, the Continental Divide tours, those type of tours, right? I mean, so you got
Yep,
to take
yep.
folks out on those type of things.
All the BDRs that would offer there. I mean, yeah, every aspect. And then I got to so when I got offered the job, because they were looking for an instructors. I was actually a firearms instructor. I worked
That's
for
right.
Adapt Academy at the time, and I had the instructing bit of it, but the writing part, I was like, hey, like I'm not really that great of an off road writer, and they're just like, you've got, we all like you. You've got the personality. You know how to teach. You know how to instruct skills. We can teach you the writing part. That's literally what we do, right? Is teach that. So I ended up, just learning, and I went to a bunch of other schools. A bunch of, Jimmy Lewis School, Dragu, and learn from all these other guys that have, that now have their own training schools as well. And then got into racing, got into the competitive side of things, and that just really springboarded. I was like, well, shoot, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna just like go all in, and research as much as I can, and learn as much as I can. And so I ended up getting to the levels where I was doing the next level trainings, the advanced trainings, um, and did every aspect, and got to be, a lead coach there.
Very
and
cool.
and so it was just a really great experience. And yeah, obviously very BMW focused, but we had to learn everything. I made it a point to go anytime a new model came out, like I go out and test it and get on the demo rides and everything and learn anything I can, because we get everybody coming through that school, doing 30 people every other week, and then the events and all that kind of stuff like that. I mean, it is easily, I'm coaching 400, 500 plus people in a year, and all walks of life, all skill levels, guys who've been professional to people who had barely even hadn't even done MSF,
Right.
and so that was just really cool to get that experience, with all these different types of folks, types of bikes. And then we had to innovate a lot of things, because the technology, when they started introducing
Oh yeah.
TFT screens and ride modes and all this stuff, because initially the BMW training thing was like take off all rider aids, take off the ABS, traction control if you had it. But then we had to start evolving, because all the electronics started getting just more and more on bikes.
They started to get so good that they were actually good tools instead of being a hindrance in some cases off road.
Yeah, yeah, and we were able to learn and adapt, to the trainings, to be like, hey, in this scenario, if you're having this hard time, pop it into rain mode, or take track, yeah, definitely take traction control off, right? But we started having to incorporate that into the instruction with the different
Yeah.
bikes, and then Honda comes out with the DCT.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, how do you teach friction zone to somebody on a bike that doesn't have a
It
friction
doesn't
zone?
have a clutch. Yeah.
Doesn't have, yeah, exactly. So and we came up with really creative ways of using the brakes, because they has a left front brake, or sorry,
Yeah.
a relocation of a brake on the left handlebar, and we're just like, oh, hey, you can use that as a drag, and
Yeah.
put and drag and slow the bike down, and then put throttle up against it, and then now you can do these you know sub speed maneuvers and everything, and imitate sort of that whole
Essentially
friction
feathering
zone
the
part.
clutch. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy.
exactly. But
Yeah. So
there's
that's
just things that like we had to figure out and learn, as we got different people. And how do you trick, like the Tenerays, the Yamahas, before the T7s? Like, we found out you can put it up on a center stand and trick and fault the traction control and the ABS, and then while you're running it, it faults it gives up and goes away, but you can't turn the bike off. So it's just like, okay, that's how we can turn that off, because at the time they didn't have the ability to actually disable that stuff. So I don't know, we're just, it wasn't
learn
just
as you
all
go.
BMW. Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So
So that brings us to kind of present day. So oh well, let's touch on real quick. So the Yellow Pine store, back to that. Are you planning on staying with that, or what's kind of your plan with the Yellow Pine store since you're down in Austin now?
yeah, I've got it pretty turnkey at this point. I mean, it's just got all the processes and everything dialed in. I'm needing to move along at this point,
Yeah.
and it's like the winter time thing. That was kind of a thing I had to decide on what I was going to do this winter, was if I was going to stick it out another winter there, because there's a potential to open it up for that snowmobiling traffic and everything, but I
Hmm.
just don't have enough lodging to accommodate these snowmobile groups that come out there, and the 15 people show up, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, where do you house them when our population drops from 55 in the summer to 15 to 18 that stay in the wintertime, and everybody winterizes and shuts stuff down, and then it's like, yeah, I can't, I just can't do it all by myself,
Yeah. And
and
if somebody was interested in purchasing that place, there's room there to build the lodging and everything, right? Or
mhm,
there's even buildings, structures there that could be converted. It's just, I
yeah,
get it, as being kind of a single entrepreneur there. It's hard to do all that yourself, So
yeah.
if
And
anybody
I am
listening
like
is,
the second youngest resident in town, and then
yeah,
there's a big gap, and
yeah.
all that. But
So if anybody's listening and they're interested in the Yellow Pine store, I mean, it is a moneymaker for sure. It's just
yeah,
it comes with its challenges, but it's also a really cool backcountry just destination. So
Yeah.
there's some potential
And
there for sure.
it's gorgeous back there. I mean, it's just one of the most beautiful pieces of country that you can live in.
Yeah, I mean, if
And,
you've been there, it's 360 degrees of mountaintop right
yeah,
out of
yep,
downtown.
yep.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I
And
mean,
the rivers,
one of the beautiful rivers, salmon fishing and all that kind of stuff there. Just, I mean, if the fly fishing is, just, I mean,
people
it's not
come
even
from
the
all over.
fishing, just standing out there and looking
It's
at it. You're like,
catching. Yeah.
yeah, breathtaking. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a business that is a little bit more ideal for like a husband wife team, that are maybe retired or something like that, or maybe they want to look into something else.
Yeah.
It's more suited for that instead of a single guy by himself running a store,
Right.
the whole
Right.
operation.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Half the town, really. Mayor,
yeah.
firefighter. So
Yeah. Part of the fire, volunteer, the firefighting fighter had to
yeah.
learn how to drive all the trucks and the pumps and everything like that. The search and rescue, doing the search and rescue, and then
When I
helping
did,
little ladies across the road.
when I talk to you, or when I talk about you to other people and explain kind of who you are, I'm like, he's literally the Dos Equis guy. He's like the most interesting man. He's done a little bit of absolutely everything. So I mean, that's just one of the reasons why I think it's just awesome that you have so much life experience at your age to be able to say you've done all these things, and it's no joke. I mean, you actually have done all these things. So, which brings
Yeah.
us to the next chapter of your life right now. They're in Austin. So what drove you to go set up in Austin?
So it was actually kind of an accident. I was actually looking to get some other work for the wintertime. I got my crane operator license. I was talking to some folks about, like they're just like, hey, you could go up to Alaska and do this whole thing. And I actually went through and got all my certifications, and I was like, sure, why not? I'll try that. That's something I haven't done yet.
Right.
Um, and make a good chunk of money and everything. So uh, I was moving some stuff for my family, out of a storage unit out west, and my sister and her husband happened to say that they're moving to Texas, back to Texas. Her husband's from here and everything, and it was the same day I was driving cross country. They were driving this way, and they were moving to Austin. And I was like, I know some people in Austin. I had a couple buddies that had started this training place out there and everything. I was like, let me just stop in and say hello and everything. And then I come through, and it turns out one of the friends, that I knew, he ended up parting ways and moving on to something else. And he was supposed to be the head trainer, the head instructor there. And um, I got to talking, just got to talk with him. And then, Rawson had asked me, like, he's like, what are you doing right now? I'm just like, well, just doing this. And he's like, well, like on your way back, I was going down to Miami and everything. And it's like, on your way back, like stop back through and, and we'll chat some more and everything. So I went and did that and everything came. And when I came back, he had an offer letter for me. And he
And
wanted
for
to,
what place is that then?
he had an offer for Austin Moto Adventures.
Yeah,
Um,
which is essentially, it's kind of what you had already had experience with, right? It was a motorcycle and adventure motorcycle instructor.
Yep, adventure motorcycle. And I was just, he wanted me to come in as taking that lead instructor position, and he actually wanted me as his VP of operations. And
Yeah, I'm
I
sure
was
that
like,
you called me and you're like, dude, I did not expect this.
yeah,
You're very
yeah,
surprised.
I didn't. And he was, he told me, he's like, I did a lot of vetting on you and a lot of checking, and I talked to a lot of people because I've been needing, essentially this right hand person to really help me get this thing going. And your name came up a lot, and a lot of people, like, a lot of it was just really, he told me, who and everything, and a lot of people just said, awesome things and stuff like that. He's just like, the choice was pretty clear. He's like, so I want you to come on. I want you to come on board. And I was like, I was kind of like, Yeah, let me think about it, which I already had my mind made up. Like, let's just,
Right.
let me think
Yeah.
about it. Okay, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you, yeah.
Right. You're right.
But, but
It's
yeah, and
kind of
then
your wheelhouse, man. Like you're a natural instructor. I feel like you do very well at that. Your passion is motorcycle and off-road motorcycle, so it's kind of a no-brainer to move on to that. And not only that, but the property there, from what I understand, I haven't been out there yet. Yet is the word for that, because I'm gonna make it out there for sure. But the property is pretty amazing. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like the
yeah,
things that Austin Moto Adventures offers that sets other training installations apart.
yeah. So it is, our big thing is really going after this. I mean, there's all kinds of training schools out there. There's all kinds of things, but we really want to set this up as a world class, truly world class premier experience. And there aren't many places like that. There aren't many places up there that give that kind of experience. And the riding and the property, we have 1,400 acres of playground, and the topography. I think we have about like just a little over 2,000 foot of elevation gain on the
Which
property.
for Texas is a lot.
Yeah, yeah, because I'd never thought of Texas as having terrain. It's just flat
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
cowland or something, right? Well, you go to this property, and I went and went. We actually rode horses. We have horse stables there, and we got on the horses and rode around, and it was just like, what? It looks like Utah. It looks like
Right.
you're, I mean, parts of it look like Lockhart Basin, parts of it look like, outside of Park City and everything. I'm just, you
Crazy.
know, yeah, it has so much different types of terrain, woods riding, washes, creeks, water crossings, and rock features, um, and everything. So we have, and then the cabins. We're slated to have 30 cabins. We have 15 of them right now, and everything. And every customer who comes in, you get your own private cabin, has your own private bathroom and shower, and they're really nice, and they're all. We're getting them sponsored by the different folks in the industry. Currently, we've had like Revzilla sponsored one, Black Dog, Butler Maps, MedJet, Moscow Moto, um, Outback Motortek. Like, I mean, just everybody's really excited,
Cool.
and just a
Yeah.
lot of the connections, just built over the last 9 years of doing
Yeah.
this adventure, adventure training and instructing, so yeah, we have, just a lot of people are excited about it, and we're so centrally located to some big metropolises. I mean, Austin aside, within 3 hour radius of us, it's Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, Austin. I mean, just the biggest
Yeah.
cities here in Texas.
It's about
And
the
and
center of the state, basically. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, no matter what airport you fly into, it's not a very far drive. I mean, obviously Austin would be the closest, but I mean, if you flew into Dallas, just straight down I-35.
right. Yeah. I mean, it's super easy to get to, and it's not so remote to where you can't get to resources and things like that. But then everything can be done on that property, and
Yeah, and
and
it's
we've
it's
got,
right outside of Burnett, Texas, which is just north
mhm,
of Austin. I mean, we're talking at what is it, a 40-minute drive to the airport from Austin?
yeah, like
Or
45,
or
50 minute, but
yeah,
we
not too
call it an
far.
hour. We call it an hour
Yeah.
worth of
Yeah, with
traffic.
traffic, right.
Yeah,
So it's I
but
mean, like you
and it
said, the
overlooks
resources.
Buchanan Lake,
Oh,
which is
yeah, Lake
a
Buchanan.
gorgeous
Yeah,
lake. Yep, yep,
yeah.
yep.
Awesome.
So, but the other cool thing about this property is it's not just the adventure riding and everything like that too, but we're a training center for DPS, for military, Navy SEALs, special operations, special warfare, drone projects. We've got, I want to say, like 15 or 20 different shooting ranges, gun bays. We have a mile long shooting range, 1,000 yard ranges, mile long ranges. We've got host 3 gun tournaments there. Yeah, the 3 gun tournaments, Tough Mudder and Spartan
Oh,
races,
yeah, yeah.
are hosted there, and then we have about 70 miles of mountain bike MTB trails, as
So
well as
cool.
the largest jump I think in the state of Texas. It's the largest mountain bike jump in the state of Texas.
Wow, I did not know that.
And
I heard
yeah,
all the other ones, but I didn't hear that one. That's cool.
yeah. Yeah, and they got, all the banks and turns, and the wood slats and ladders and all that stuff. It's
Right.
just yeah, it's a blast. So that, and the horse stables, and I mean, there's Blackhawks turning around. We have a RPG range.
That's crazy.
where yeah, but it just no joke RPGs and underwater detonation devices, and drones and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So what do your
it's
what do your typical trainings look like? Because so how long has Austin Moto Adventures been doing training? First of all,
it's just barely been a year.
okay,
Not even a year. I think last June was when they
gotcha.
kind of opened up, and so it's been to date 11 classes.
Oh, cool. And in
Mhm.
that time, you guys have made some pretty awesome relationships. I mean, you said about all the sponsors for the cabins, but and I don't know, and maybe this isn't something I can even talk about, which we can edit it out if it's not. But um, the new relationship with Harley-Davidson, that's something
Mhm.
that's official, and is that out in public now?
So we are the only facility in the world that is actually supported by Harley Davidson. We have our bikes, that were provided by Harley, and yeah, the only one offering them as training bikes, in our
Gotcha.
training fleet. Um,
So
so
when
I mean, that's
somebody
been no,
go
that's
ahead.
been it's been a huge thing. I mean, for myself, coming from BMW, and Harley is what actually got me into motorcycles.
Yeah.
That brand was what started it all for me, and there just was never a bike for me to ride when I got into this adventure thing. And then I was actually part of uh, the initial phase of development, folks that were coming through from Harley corporate, that were coming through training, learning how to ride off road, and we knew that it was coming out. And I actually was a trainer, the instructor for the Bosch engineers who designed the traction control, and the electronics and stuff in the system, and we modeled it actually a lot off of, trained them on the GS and other bikes, and put the bikes in situations where we were testing the parameters, which was it was a cool training,
Yeah.
because we were testing the parameters of, like, all right, go through this thing and freaking full lockup or full throttle or bank and turn, and then they were recording all the lean angle sensing and that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, it was kind of neat to be a part of that, and we saw a lot of we got to touch a lot of the pre-production bikes and everything. So that was really exciting. But the fact that they were willing to essentially support this, the Austin Moto Adventures, is was
Yeah.
a huge step. I mean, yeah,
It's relatively
huge for
new,
us.
right? And then
Yeah.
and now it sounds like you guys are trying to work it out to where if in the area in Austin or anywhere in that area, if you go and you buy a Pan America, then they can
Mhm.
get a training kind of wrapped into the deal, right? So they can buy this
Yep.
adventure bike and then they'll have training on this new bike that they just bought or one of the rental bikes or whatever they're at Austin Moto Adventures. But I think that's
Mhm.
awesome because it seems like there's a lot of people that are starting to kind of get on the Pan America train.
Mhm.
And from
Yep.
what I've seen, that's dude, that the Pan America, I mean, there's people that are naysayers of the Pan America, but I feel like it's people who haven't really spent. It's just people who are that are talking about it without having any experience with it. And
Right.
once you ride it, it's a pretty impressive motorcycle
Yeah.
for Harley's, first Gen 1 of an adventure bike.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they did an awesome job for their first one coming out. Of course, like any bike, it's going to have its
Right.
quirks. And, we have the majority of the bikes that we do have are BMWs. We have BMW 1250s, we've got KTM 1090, 1290, 890s, and, we've got a bunch of other bikes. We just only have five Pan Americas, to start right now.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, it's like anything else. It can have its quirks. And I always say this too, because I remember when BMW switched to the liquid cooled motors, the
Oh
1200s,
yeah.
man, it was 5, 6 years of all kinds of crap, separating stanchion tubes, the the ESA failures, the shift assist when they announced that, when they introduced that, and freaking practically wheeling, and everything. And then Then, introducing the TFT, and they were the first ones to put in the TFT display, and that causing all kinds of codes and buggy issues and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I mean, I can go
every
on and
every
on.
manufacturer has to work through whatever it is they have to work through to refine something, and you're not going to
Right.
release the first year model or first few years and have it be perfect, because it's impossible to see what people are going to put these things through. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, after doing the Arizona BDR, which we didn't really talk about, but yeah, you were on the Arizona BDR with us, and Chad, who was on the last one of the last
Yeah.
podcasts, another
Yeah.
shit show
My
of
boy Chad. Oh
of
man,
a ride. But
I
I
feel for
mean,
him.
yeah, you and Justin were
Mhm.
on Pan Americas, and I mean, you guys had no issues except for a
Well,
few a few little things that you guys had
little
to kind of work
things.
out. Yeah, little
Yeah.
stuff that
Well,
was
the biggest issues we had were um, because Justin put a bunch of brand new aftermarket stuff on his,
yeah,
and he
yeah,
didn't he didn't Loctite a thing, which,
right.
like,
It's
I
not
did that
Harley's
on the
fault.
yeah, I
Yeah,
did that on the GS. I went through and Loctited everything because, but I just naturally do that when I get a new bike.
right,
But
right.
so he had things, bits and pieces falling off and everything, and I had a fuel pump issue, but like, it was just loud. Really, that's all it was. It was starting to go loud and everything, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, they performed great. Loaded up with luggage and gear, we got through everything, and the gnarliest of the gnar, that any other bike, would get through.
Yeah,
And
I mean, what for everyday or like normal, you're not going out doing hard enduro, right? For everyday normal adventure riding, it's it's made for what it's intended to do. It does well at what
yeah,
it's intended to do.
yeah,
So
yeah. And it's the other cool thing. It's so, in comparison, because a lot of my you know a lot of my adventure life was always on BMW. In comparison, yeah, it's not as smooth and refined as the BMW, naturally, because the BMW has had years and years and years, right,
right.
of that refinement. But it's so fun to ride. It's like, I mean, the BMW is kind of like, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, it's like, it's like the old lady, just
Yeah,
consistent and there, and it's like, it does its thing and stuff and like that. But the Harley, I get on that sucker, and you put that thing in sport mode, and
yeah,
and
you're
unleash the
ripped.
150 horsepower, and it's just rowdy, and it's like, it's like, it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
this is just whipping and ripping and stuff like that, and it's flickable. And honestly, I think it is better than the other bike on in the gnarly off road and the technical stuff. It does the
awesome.
front end with its tradition, with its conventional suspension. I mean, to me, the front end doesn't feel like it wants to tuck and everything. And you probably, have
Yeah,
started experiencing some of that, and
yeah.
everything.
It's
It's
there's a learning curve going from traditional forks to the tail lever. The tail lever is awesome. I do really like the tail lever, but in the really technical stuff, it seems like there's a little bit of a delay, whereas the forks, traditional forks, you know what it's going to do because you're used to it. So it does take there is a learning curve.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
so
and
what
the
are the
beauty of it
typical?
is at Austin Moto, you get to try them both. You
Yeah,
know, so I mean, I'd say that's another advantage that we do. We offer 3 days of training. We have Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So
that was my
we
next
we
question.
throw
What the typical training weekend looks like?
yeah, yeah. We have folks will come in about noon on Friday, and we'll have lunch. We have this awesome pizza oven, like a wood fired pizza oven and everything, and we'll do flatbreads, build your own flatbreads and stuff like that. And
Nice.
then we'll go out and do an afternoon training session, just to kind of help us evaluate people, but also get them, more comfortable with the bike if they've never, they don't know how to do the modes, or had never been on a bike like that before. And it gives us a chance to sort of, check people out, but also let them, get a little bit of skills before we get into the heavy meat of the training. And
Yeah.
so we'll have the heavy part of it on Saturdays and Sundays. And we've structured it to where we do a lot of the skills, and we strip you down to the basics, just clutch, brakes, front brakes, rear brakes, throttle, body position, and just throw out everything you've learned, and
Right.
just learn this process from the get-go. and get familiar with like where that little friction zone point is, get familiar with the body position. We physically will move your toes and your feet and your knees and, get you on the center stand and work with, all those body mechanics. And then we get into the different skills and obstacles, with starting and stopping on hills, how to take hills, how to go up hills, down hills, how to, how to do getting into turning, how to initiate turns, how to, do tighter turns and 180s and circles and pretty much every, scenario. And then, and a lot of that stuff will be like cone work and a little more flatter surface type work on Saturday. But then Sunday, which is the cool thing we have with this property, is Sunday we have a lot of those scenarios, but with real world trail.
Gotcha.
So like the 180s course and everything, now we're going to go do a 180s course that's got rocks and sand and, undulations and
It's not
camber.
perfectly smooth off camber. It's like off camber how it would actually be in the real world. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then we step them up from there, and we've got a really awesome. I mean, our sand run is pretty awesome and pretty long.
Mm,
So you get the feeling, because a lot of times at other places I've instructed at, it's like sand, you can just cheat it, nail it, and you're through it in like a
coast
second.
across
Right?
it. Yeah. 20 or 30 yards. You don't
Yeah,
get the feeling of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. It's like no. This one you actually get to feel going, side to side. It's like, oh shoot, I'm going this way. I have room to correct and come back and get a long run, at
Nice.
it. And a lot of people are stoked about that. And of course, here in Texas, there isn't really any kind of sand like that, like powdery sand. That's
Yeah.
kind of stuff we're used to out in Nevada and California and stuff like that. So it's an opportunity to get used to that, and then gravel, and then that's essentially like our levels 1, 2, and then we've got levels 3, 4, and 5. Um, so those step them up into next level type riding. But when we start getting into our levels 4 and 5 trainings, they're uh, more experiences. Actually, it's more of a real world experience or a real world expedition that we
Gotcha.
consolidate and put you through, and you have to accomplish tasks, and you have to get to certain points, and then you're going to do a tire change, or you had a medical situation, you're going to have to put in some of the fieldcraft skills, and
Gotcha.
we
Some of these
we
like
throw
mock
those scenarios.
scenarios that are, yeah, mock scenarios that are controlled in like a controlled environment. That way, when it is a real environment, you have that experience, at least that in the back of your mind that you've done this before and it's not just brand new. That's great.
Right. Yeah.
Very
Yeah. And
cool.
so,
So
and
in
we
that
teach you how to.
sorry, in that stepping up from level 1 to level 4 and 5, are there prerequisites, or if somebody says, oh, I'm already an expert, can I jump into 4 and 5, or do you need to go through the entire course first before you can go to these other before you can graduate these other
No.
trainings?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a few people. Sorry, we've had a few people that have gone through other courses that that we know of and everything, and they've
Gotcha.
gone through that, and that's verified. If somebody is pretty adamant that that we can't verify that, it's like, okay, well, we can verify this in about
We'll
15
find
20
out the hard
minutes.
way here.
Well, yeah, yeah, exactly. And we've had quite a few people have some humble pie.
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
we've had guys that have ridden for 40, 50 years, and kind of they had said, there's actually an interview I posted it. They had said, it's like, I've been riding for 40, 50 years, and looked at this and thought, what am I really going to learn? And then he said in about 4 or 5 minutes, I realized I did not know what I was what I,
Well,
what I
I
was
think that's
doing.
the
So
thing, is that when you're self-taught, you develop habits, whether good or bad, right? And you think, I've been writing for this many years and I can do this. But when you go and you break it down to like you're building a house, right? You have the foundation, and as long as you have a strong foundation, then you can build on the skills from there. And like for me, for instance, when I took Rawhide, I had experience, and I I took the second course. What is it called? The next
next
level.
step.
Yeah, next step. But I started off in the first because my wife was doing it, and I was going to do it with her. And they once we kind of went through the first, what was it, the test or whatever, and they kind of say, oh, you can actually go up to the next one. But even still, in that first, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes, I'm like, huh, I should have been doing it this way the entire time, because this makes way more sense. And then, you just learn to build on top of that, and you build your skills. So just because you've been riding for 20 or plus years or 10 years or whatever it is, and you've done all these expeditions, there's always going to be something that you can learn in the basics, or even just get reminded that something that you learned a long time ago, that it clicks and you're like, man, I've been doing this wrong for so many years. I mean, I did a quick little video with Brett Tax a few years or a year ago. It was actually at your place. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
And he pointed out something that I was doing, and he's like, what you're doing is work. It works, but try this. And dude, it's every time I ride now, I change that position in my foot, and it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. We talk about a lot about these, these aha moments, right? It's like, that's the term. It's like, oh man, and you could see it when the light bulb goes off in somebody. It's just like, they just weren't getting it, or they were chicken winging their knees out and stuff, and like doing this little thing. It's just like, hey, no, like this, but move your foot like this, or this and that and the other. And then all of a sudden it's just like boom, and then they start flowing. And like I've had some people, like when it clicked, they go, woohoo, like they just yell in their helmet, like, oh my god, like boom, there was that aha moment that just hit them, like, man, I just learned something.
For sure. So what's in the future of Austin Moto Adventures? What's next for you guys to start? Because you said you've only been doing this for about a year. I know you guys have some big plans. What are some things that maybe you can kind of fill us in on to look forward to in the next 1, 2, 3 years?
Yeah, so we are rolling out this program with Harley, where we're going to be incorporating certificate, and we're test bedding it with a few dealerships at first, because even just in our local area in Texas, there's like 30 or 28 Harley-Davidson dealerships.
Wow,
it's insane.
that's a lot, yeah.
In one state. And so there's a select few that we're going to issue these certificates, and they're going to build that in with a purchase of a Pan America. So the folks that buy that, they'll get a full training class. It's going to have for all 3 days, include the lodging, food. I mean, everything. It's
Awesome.
It's the entire program. So
that's great.
We're excited to see how that takes off, and how that's pretty well received. And the other cool thing, and we got a lot of feedback from the dealers, and the dealers were just like, hey, like, okay, what about the scenario, like somebody buys this brand new Pan America and they don't want to go get it scratched up, or they don't want to drop it. They're like, well, that's what we have our Harley Pan Americas for.
Yeah.
Our fleet bikes for. And so we decided to throw that into the package as well.
Very cool.
To where it's like, even you don't have to ride your brand new Pan America. You can come ride one of ours and get the skills on the same exact bike, and take that home with you.
And do you guys have both the standard models and the adaptive ride height models?
They're all adaptive ride height models.
Okay, cool. Nice. They're all premium then. That's cool.
Yeah. And that's been a game changer for us, especially just in the instruction world alone, because now that opens up that bike to so many people.
Right.
People of shorter stature, a lot of lady riders. Harley Davidson, I think, has the most females riding motorcycles, like naturally within the brand, right? And there's such a big brand. And so now this opens up to where, like, they can stay within the brand and have a bike that's of the appropriate, that can adjust to the appropriate height, for them. So
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see if other brands start doing that in the future, since it seems like such a popular selling point for that bike.
Yeah. So BMW is with the new 1300 is coming with adaptive ride height.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that. That's very true.
Yeah, and so it's been kind of neat, because I mean, with competition, right? They're in competition with each other, but it actually pushes the manufacturers to do better, to provide something better.
Yeah.
And with Harley Davidson being the first to come out with this adaptive ride height thing, then that really pushed BMW to realize, we need to have this on our next edition of bikes. It's just a need, because they modified it with just having the low seat, low suspension models. Right.
Yeah.
But from the dealer standpoint, they're just like, well, how many of those do we order versus how many of the standard height ones do we order? And, that just really messes up the metrics. Now they can just order one bike that does it all.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Anything else coming down that guys can look forward to?
We've got man, we've got a bunch of events. We got some rallies that we're going to announce, and I can't really say anything right now. Well, probably by
Yeah.
the time this comes out, we'll have announced the newest thing with our rallies. But I'm super excited. This was a big play that's coming in for us. That's going to set us up for for having some really big events, and then um, we are going to be shifting operations during the summertime when it gets ungodly hot here in
Oh
Texas.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we're going to be shifting our operations out west and operating out of Utah and Colorado. And we have
Oh,
a bunch
nice.
of tours, tours that we're going to be doing out in those regions. So we got something else we're going to be announcing. So just stepping it up. He brought me in to try to clean up the business, and then just prop us up to get to this next phase and this next level. And it's looking like we're going to be pushing into that next level here.
Well, as many connections as you have in the industry, I mean, I feel like everybody that I talk to and that's in the industry, like, oh yeah, I know Josh. It's like, of course you do. So I think that's awesome that it sounds like they have the right guy to help grow this place. And if somebody is curious or wanting to come down to Texas and book a tour, or if you're in Texas, where do they find you guys at? What's the website?
It's Austin Moto Adventures.com.
Okay.
And on Instagram is ATX Moto Adventures. And we're going to be rolling out some stuff on YouTube. We're going to start, doing upping our YouTube filming and posting
Awesome.
a bunch of videos there and stuff. And on Facebook is Austin Moto Adventures. You'll be able to find us there too.
And like I said, Josh is the most interesting man I know. So where can they follow you on Instagram if they're wanting to, just see all the shenanigans that you get into?
So my personal Instagram is Joshua SK Jones. The YouTube page is Joshua. It says Joshua Ask Jones.
Oh,
ASK,
yeah.
It's Joshua SK Jones, the same thing.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Well, cool, man, dude. I appreciate all the information that you brought on, and just chatting with you, dude. Like we went a little bit long on this one, but I don't care. I mean, people get to just hear the conversation that we would normally have anyway, for the most part, when we're together. So, dude, I appreciate
we didn't, there's so much more that we can cover.
Oh, I mean, we could turn this into like a 6-hour tour, let's turn this into like a Jocko podcast or something where they just go for hours and hours. But I'm trying to do people a little bit of a favor. We'll have you back on for sure at some point, maybe even from Austin Moto Adventures grounds there when I make a trip down. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, man, you got to come out. You got to come out.
I will. I'll for sure be there in June. I've got we go there into Austin in that area every year, late June. So I'll definitely come check it out then, but I'm hoping to make a trip before that. Since there's a foot of snow on the ground that we got yesterday, I can't do anything here. That's why I'm doing these podcasts. So I can't do anything here on the bike. So I will take a great opportunity to run down or fly down and do something down there with you guys. So I really am going to try to make that work. But man, again, thank you so much for coming on here and just having a conversation. Well, guys, I thank you so much for watching this video or listening to this video on all of the streaming sites. If you have any questions at all about Austin Moto Adventures, definitely hit us in the comments below. Josh or I will hop on here periodically and answer anything we can. Make sure and follow Josh at his Instagram. Also check out austinmotoadventures.com or ATX Moto Adventures.com. I'll leave it right here. You can check it out. But guys, once again, thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button for more content like this coming your way, and we'll see you in the next one.